Urine, our MC, stands against his father. The Marquis, Willington, believes only aura blades can crack a borax scales, so Urine makes a simple bet. If a dagger brings the beast down, Willington must train him. If not, Urine follows his father's will. After pushing his divine arts to the 3rd star, the next day, he faces the summoned Borak, a creature he once wrote into life. The creature began to attack him relentlessly, but he dodged them easily. After distancing himself from the creature, a clear spot appears in his view, marking a weak point near an unscaled joint. He tests it with one clean throw. The Borak drops with only a single dagger. Shock turns into cheers. The magician confirms the result. But before he became like this, let's go back to the beginning. 6 months before then, our protagonist had opened his eyes to find himself in a strange room. He is on a king-sized bed inside a luxurious room. He suddenly heard someone call him young master. He looks up to see a beautiful woman knight standing in front of him. He is still commending her beauty when he realizes that the clothes she is wearing look strange. The knight asks him if he is feeling okay, and before he can answer, she mentions that she is going to call for the priest. As she turns around to leave, Urine calls her back, telling her that he would like to ask her something. However, the knight just ignores him and walks out of the room. After she is gone, Urine gets out of bed and walks to the mirror. This is where he is hit with the greatest surprise. He screams in agony when he realizes that he is some chubby, ugly dude with a beatable face. Urine starts questioning everything that he knows, wondering where his handsome middle-aged body has disappeared to. He cannot believe that he has transformed into an ugly, chubby brat. He starts to panic, wondering if he is in a dream or something. He is thinking of going back to sleep so he can wake to his original body when the priest enters the room. The priest is accompanied by the head of the house and the female knight. The head of the house looks absolutely terrifying as he stares down at Urine. The priest holds Urine's hand to check his pulse. While the priest is doing this, the head of the house calls Urine a total disgrace, wondering why he finally decided to wake up. Urine is crippled in fear as he wonders who the scary man is. The priest urges the head of the house to calm down since Urine just woke up, and he can punish him later. The priest checks Urine's body and reveals his surprise that he is not badly injured. In fact, his mind is stable and all of his injuries are gone. The priest says this is a relief, but the head of the house argues with him, saying Urine is better off dead. Things escalate as the man screams at Urine, telling him that he beat his fiancée. Urine is genuinely confused about everything that is happening, and the old man continues with his nagging, saying Urine is 19 years old and he still hasn't grown up. The head of the house screams again, telling Urine that he is useless since his brother has been able to awaken his aura. Urine, on the other hand, is getting fatter by the day. At the mention of the word aura, something clicks in Urine's head. The man then tells Urine to apologize to her when he recovers. Urine is confused by what the man means by her. This earns him another round of nagging as the man reminds him that he is talking about his fiancée, Ilya. The man lets Urine know that he is done for if his fiancée doesn't forgive him. Urine is forced to ask again so he can know if he heard right. The man repeats Ilya's name and he tells him to stop disgracing the Rox family any longer. The man then ends his statement by calling him his name, Urine. At this point, Urine confirms his fear, realizing that he is Urine Rox. Since he is Urine Rox, he concludes that the man is Marquis Willington Rox. The man hears this and he gets mad. He immediately turns around to smack Urine on the face, asking him why he has so much audacity to call his own father by his name. Urine falls to the ground, and before Willington can beat him any further, the priest and the female guard hold him back. Urine remains on the floor as he starts rethinking all of his life's decisions. He cannot believe what is happening to him. He passes out and expects to wake back up to reality. When he wakes up, he is shocked to see that he is still in the same room and the female knight is there with him. He wonders why he is not waking up from the dream, and the female guard walks up to him, asking him some dumb question about whether he is awake. Urine decides to fully confirm if he is right with his deduction. He calls the female guard Aaron, and just as he feared, the lady answers to the name. He then confirms from Aaron that the reason he was bedridden is that he went after Ilya and got beaten up to the extent that he passed out. Aaron reveals that Urine attacked his fiancée in the room, but she turned the tables and beat the crap out of Urine before he finally passed out. Urine grabs his head in horror as if he just remembered something crazy. Aaron is confused as to what is wrong with the dude, but Urine knows that he is so fugged. Urine finally calms down, and he comes to the bitter realization that he has somehow ended up inside the web novel that he wrote. However, the worst thing is that he didn't enter the web novel as the protagonist. He ended up coming into the story as the trash villain who picks a fight with the hero and ends up dying horribly. Urine starts freaking out again, leaving Aaron to ask him what is wrong with him. Urine screams, saying he has somehow found himself in a trash story that is not even a webtoon. The Urine Rox that he has possessed is a piece of trash who has no talent, no skills, and he never trains. He is just a dumb villain who leeches off his family name as the heir, but then he loses his fiancée to the protagonist. Enraged, he attacked the protagonist, but this turned out to be a mistake on his path because the protagonist trashed him before killing him in a dirty back alley. Now that he has found himself in the body of a trash person, our guy wonders how he is supposed to survive. Since this is a fantasy world, he is still confused about what abilities Urine has at all. However, he knows about the chances and items that the protagonist hasn't found yet. Urine comes to the conclusion that his only chance is to prepare quickly. He tries getting off the bed, but his body is too heavy because of the fat, and he crashes to the ground. Aaron quickly runs over to check on him. She asks him if he is all right, but with frustration written all over his face, he tells Aaron that he is far from fine. Just then, Urine realizes that he can finally see the status screen. With this, he is able to see Aaron's stats. Aaron's trait is the level 2 Swift Sword, a clear mind, level aura, level adaptation, and, for her affection level toward Urine, it is 0. Urine is glad to have been able to summon the status window, and he tells Aaron that she is free to leave because he is feeling much better. Aaron adheres to his instructions and starts to leave. As she walks away, Urine focuses on her stats. He is not surprised since Aaron is built to be stronger than most regular knights. But he is surprised that her affection level is 0. Urine is particularly worried that there is an affection option on the status window. Urine wonders if this option is there because he mostly played dating sims in the past. He can't believe that the world building in the world he has found himself in is total trash. He then thinks back on the affection option, wondering if it is the reason Aaron is acting all strange. However, he leaves this aside and decides to check the mirror again. He is so pissed about the trash body that he has. Just then, the status window opens up so he can see his stats. He is excited to check his stats, but the excitement soon falls into the bin when he sees the rubbish stats that he has. For his special condition, the system lets him know that he is suffering from morbid obesity, which is pretty obvious, by the way. For his trait, he has the Eye of the Creator, but this is still on level 1. He is also blessed with the 4 Heavenly Venom Arts, but this section is still locked. However, his synchronizing rate is 99.9%. Urine realizes that only one of his abilities stands out, and this is the 4 Heavenly Venom Arts. Suddenly, it dawns on him that the Venom Arts were adopted from the wuxia webtoon that he loved. This is a webtoon that has an attractive heroine. Also, the poison and hidden weapons martial art is the 4 Heavenly Venom Arts. At this point, Urine realizes that this world is a mashup of everything that he knows before. Just then, it dawns on him that he might have a chance if he actually learns the 4 Heavenly Venom Arts. Urine smiles, believing that he has found a ticket to his survival. Apparently, there is a prestigious sect from the Sichuan province, and they appear in the Chinese wuxia novels. They are a clan that specializes in poisons and silent assassinations with toxin-laced hidden weapons. Urine is left to wonder why the Sichuan Tang clan is in this world, since the world is supposed to be a medieval fantasy world. Later on, Willington learns from Aaron that Urine has gotten to his feet. He asks her how Urine is feeling, and she reveals that he doesn't appear to be good yet, since he stumbled when he tried to stand. Aaron says Urine's body is still in poor condition. Willington also adds that the priest said his injuries are healed, which he finds pretty strange. Willington asks Aaron if she thinks anything is strange with Urine's behavior since he is usually stubborn, but he easily agreed to apologize to Ilya when he suggested it earlier. Willington doesn't want to believe that Urine has had a sudden personality change. Willington is confident that by the next day, Urine will be back to his normal self, who is always causing trouble. However, Aaron thinks otherwise. She has faith in the fact that Urine will come around one day. Willington is shocked to hear this from Aaron. He is surprised that Aaron still has some faith in Urine when he, who is his father, has already given up on him. Willington tells Aaron that she is basically putting her hope on something that might never come true. Willington starts to regret his action of not allowing Aaron to just live her life as a knight instead of assigning her to Urine. Even with everything that Willington is saying, Aaron still believes in her heart that Urine is different. She cannot explain the feeling, but she just knows it. The next day, Aaron is shocked when she hears Urine asking for the training hall because he would like to exercise his body. Aaron cannot believe her ears as Urine demands that she lead him to the drill hall. Urine notices Aaron's reaction, and he asks her if there is any problem with this. Urine has already figured out that the Creator's Eye allows him to see stats, but as for the Sichuan Tang clan, he still doesn't know how to unlock it. Urine assumes that his obesity might be getting in the way of that. Because of this, he wants to exercise his body until he figures out a way around it. As he and Aaron walk through the mansion, Urine is impressed by how big the garden is, and he compares it to several stadiums combined. After walking for a few minutes, Urine is already feeling the heat. He thinks of working out in his room, but he knows that he will always give up and just sleep since there is a bed that will be staring at him in the face. Urine is wise enough to know that he cannot work out in his room. They walk past a bunch of workers and maids. Thanks to the Eye of the Creator, He is able to see what they think about him. Every servant that he has come across either dislikes him or hates him extremely. Urine doesn't blame any of them for this, since Urine was a piece of crap who trashed everyone in the mansion. Soon afterward, they arrive at the third training hall. Urine is already out of breath by the time they get there. Aaron lets him know that the knights make use of the second and first training hall, which is why the third training hall is free. Upon entering the training hall, they realize that there is someone undergoing a training session there. He checks the dude's affinity and realizes that he is the worst he has come across so far. The dude doesn't just dislike him, but he hates him and wants to kill him. The dude is Rekka Olian, and the moment he sees Urine, he starts walking toward him to greet him. He acts all cool since Aaron is there, but deep down, Urine knows that the dude cannot wait to take his head off his neck. Rekka asks Urine why he has come to the training yard, but Urine freaks out, calling the guy's name. Rekka smiles, telling Urine that he didn't know he still remembers him. Urine doesn't really remember Rekka, and he calls Aaron aside to ask her if something happened between him and Rekka. Aaron is surprised that Urine doesn't remember what he did. Apparently, some years ago, Urine's father forced him to train. Urine was mad because of this, and he called Rekka over. Rekka was still a trainee back then. Urine does his usual villainy crap and puts a scar on Rekka's face while laughing like a maniac. After Urine did this, his father practically gave up on training him. After hearing this, Urine realizes that his old self is a really trashy dude. Urine is not ready to sit around and see what Rekka is going to do to him. He suggests that they run out of there. He asks Aaron if there is another training hall that he can use alone. Aaron reveals that there is a fourth hall, but it is very far away, and the equipment is poor. Aaron says it is mostly an empty field, but Urine declares that this is exactly what he wants. Since he wants to lose weight, he wants to do it the proper way. Realizing that she can't change his mind, she has no choice but to take him to the fourth training hall. They arrive at the training yard, and Urine is surprised when he finds throwing knives on the table. Urine remembers that the Sichuan Tang clan specializes in throwing knives and small weapons. He picks up one of the knives, hoping that he can do something good with it. Urine skillfully picks it up and uses all of his might to throw the knife. However, the knife doesn't reach the target before falling off. Urine is embarrassed by this, and he turns around to look at Aaron, telling her that he just threw the knife for fun and didn't mean anything serious with it. Urine realizes that the first thing he needs to work on is his stamina. He decides that running around the training yard should help with this. Aaron just stands there, staring at him as he tries to make up for the embarrassing moment he put himself in. Urine starts running around the yard, telling Aaron that she is free to train whichever way she wants. However, Urine almost passes out after a few laps on the training ground. Later on, his father learns that he has started training, and this shocks him. However, he doesn't think it is going to last that long. Surprisingly, Urine is still training after 3 weeks. Willington cannot believe that his son has not skipped a day's training since he started. In just 3 weeks of constant training, Urine has lost a lot of weight, and his appearance has changed so much. Willington is now proud, and he finally starts to address Urine as his son. Willington realizes that without the body fat, Urine is pretty handsome. Willington wonders if his son has truly changed in his ways. Even Urine stands in front of the mirror in his room to admire himself. He realizes that he has lost a lot of weight, but even with this, the Sichuan Tang clan trait still refuses to unlock. He decides that he will give it a month, and if it doesn't unlock by then, he will proceed to steal everything meant for the protagonist. Momentarily, Aaron enters the room with Urine's food. The meal is basically called Chirin soup, but unlike its name, it is pretty useful. It is a nutritious stamina dish that is excellent for burning fat and building muscle. In the Rox family, it is natural for them to eat it after every training session. Urine cannot believe that he has to eat Chirin soup again. Aaron asks him if he is tired of the soup already, and he says yes. He mentions that he has been eating the soup for 3 weeks straight without eating anything else. Aaron stares him right in the face and with a stern and scary look. She asks him what it is that he truly wants. She wants to know if it is his desire to become a knight or just to lose weight. Urine declares that he would like to become a knight, and Aaron tells him that he has no choice but to eat the Chirin soup because even the head of the house still eats it after he is done training. Aaron tells Urine to stop complaining and just eat the soup. Urine has no choice but to agree to it after Aaron's lecture. Aaron might not be comfortable with the soup, but he knows that it has helped him over the 3-week course. Urine decides to just keep eating the soup until he finally gets tired. He takes a spoonful from the plate, and just as he chews it, he notices something strange. He figures out that the soup tastes very different from the other days. However, he continues eating until the status window suddenly opens, telling Urine that he has ingested poison. Urine is shocked to see this, but it turns out to be a blessing because this satisfies the condition to unlock the Sichuan Tang clan. Urine looks up and smiles since he knows that it is the start of his great journey. Willington stands at his window as usual to admire his great son. Just then, someone knocks on the door, and the man orders them to come in. It turns out to be his second wife, Kana, and she has brought tea for them. She noticed that her husband was staring at something and asked him what he was staring at, and he lied that he was looking at the beautiful garden. Kana then uses the opportunity to praise herself, saying she has been specially taking care of the garden. The Marquis plays along, telling Kana that her skills are impressive. Just then, Kana resorts to her female instincts as she walks up to the Marquis to hug him from behind. She hugs him, asking him when he plans to choose her son, Colin, as his heir, just like he has previously mentioned. Kana suggests that the Marquis do this pretty quickly since he has already decided. The Marquis then shocks her, telling her that it might take more time than he actually thought. Kana gets more serious, reminding the Marquis that he promised to name Colin his heir within the month. Willington admits that he said this, but tells Kana that she must have heard about the fact that Urin has suddenly come to his senses. Since Urin is the eldest son, Willington believes that Urin can turn out to be a good successor. Kana puts on a fake smile, telling her husband that she has also heard about Urin's sudden change. She says she is happy that the boy has finally come to his senses. Willington starts laughing, telling Kana that he doesn't believe that he was called back to his senses by a beating from his wife. Kana then returns to the topic of the successor, asking him what he plans to do about it. Willington says Urin has only been training for 3 weeks, and he would like to watch him a bit longer before making his decision. However, he promises Kana that he will immediately hand over the position of heir to Colin if Urin goes back to his old ways. After hearing this, Kana turns around to leave, telling her husband that she will be waiting for him in the bedroom. She steps out of the room and almost bites the dust with how pissed she is, and she swears to show Urin what she is capable of. Now in the present, it finally dawns on Urin that the condition to unlock the access to the Sichuan Tang is to ingest poison, and he has just done so. He then stares at the status window to know what has been placed inside the soup given to him. Apparently, the soup has a special herb in it, and this causes paralysis. It is a medicinal herb, but it carries a bit of toxin in it. The herb is harmless to adults in small quantities, but consistent consumption of this leads to paralysis and later kills the target. Urin is staring at the status screen when Aaron enters the room, asking him if he is no longer interested in the food. Urin apologizes and starts consuming the soup hurriedly. However, he is left with the question of who could have put the poison in the food. He is assured that he can't be killed with poison, but he knows that something has changed in the storyline. Just then, it dawns on him that Colin has not been named heir yet, which was something that happened around this time in the story. He wonders if the naming of an heir got delayed because he started training, and the person who put the poison in the food doesn't like him, and most likely from Colin's camp. After he's done eating, the system informs him that weak paralysis poison has been unlocked for him. Urin turns to Aaron, telling her that he has finished the meal and it is so good that it brought him to tears. He tells her that he wants some time alone, and without argument, Aaron excuses herself from the room, urging Urin to take a rest. After Aaron is gone, Urin stands in front of the mirror and demands that the Sichuan Tang clan appear to him. Just then, Urin's stats appear right in front of him. He has gained some skills, which include mild poisoning, but his overweight status still remains. In addition, his sync rate has dropped to 97%. Urin then focuses on more of the traits, and he realizes that there are a bunch of traits that are still locked. He still cannot access the most powerful techniques because they require other conditions to be met. Urin is blown away by the number of poisons that are available to him, and the last level on the panel is level 30. To get to level 30, he needs to unlock the levels above it. However, he needs an inner technique to unlock the basic one. Urin realizes that the Tang clan actually uses internal energy to wield poison. He then checks the martial arts section, where he realizes that he can choose one of 4 available techniques. There are the Dark Poison Arts, Thunder Needle Arts, 10,000 Venoms, and Divine Energy. Urin immediately knows the right choice for him since he is a big fan of the Tang clan story. The Dark Poison Arts focus on poison, while the Thunder Needle Arts focus on hidden weapons. For the 10,000 Venom Divine Energy, it takes longer to master, but it allows the wielder to reach mastery in both poison and hidden weapons. Without thinking twice, he picks the 10,000 Venom's Divine Energy. The moment he makes his choice, he feels a strange energy circulating through his body, and he realizes that he needs to immediately circulate the energy. He pulls off his shirt and starts to meditate, and with this, he feels a strange flow all through his body. He comes to the realization that the energy he is feeling is qi. He starts guiding it through the proper meridians so he can store it in the dantian to build internal strength. Urin remains in this position overnight without realizing it. Even though he didn't sleep, he doesn't feel tired. His body has also changed without him realizing it. Urin has been able to concentrate the qi so that he now feels it everywhere. He can even tell the number of birds outside his window without even turning to see them. Urin checks out his 10,000 Venom's Divine Energy and finds out that he is currently at the 1-star level, which grants him 10% of the total power. Suddenly, a familiar aura approaches his door, and when the person opens up, it turns out to be Aaron. Aaron enters the room to find Urine on his bed, meditating. She is surprised when she realizes that Urine didn't sleep overnight, telling him that it is quite dangerous. She suggests that Urine rest for the day, but Urine refuses, telling Aaron that he is going to training. Urine assures Aaron that he feels great and he is in top condition, so he has to train. Aaron then steps outside so she can prepare breakfast, but she notices that Urine is getting bulked up. When he arrives at the training yard, Urine picks up one of the throwing knives. He stands in front of the target, and to his surprise, a crosshair appears right in front of his eyes, just like a first-person shooter game. With this, he is able to precisely aim at the target, and he throws the knife with all of his strength while Aaron watches him. The knife hits the target with ultimate precision, shocking Aaron. By doing this, Urine unlocks the Tang clan's hidden weapons. Aaron cannot hold it in as she walks up to Urine, asking him what he just did. Urine plays dumb, telling Aaron that he also has no idea what happened. He believes that it is as the results of the past month's training are starting to show. Aaron debunks this, since she doesn't believe it is so. Urine realizes that this will be the first time he will see Aaron totally flustered, and he suggests that he try throwing the knife one more time. Urine can feel the fiery inner energy surging from his body when he throws something. With this, he takes an even better pose and he throws the knife faster and stronger. The knife hits the target right in the middle and cracks it, leaving Aaron totally stunned. Aaron stares Urine right in the face, pointing out the fact that he just shattered the target board. Urine just smiles, but he knows having the crosshair appear in his eyes is basically a cheat code for him. Apparently, Urine once loved an FPS game called Battle Attack, and he even came first in the cafe tournament held for the game. Aaron screams at Urine, asking him what he just did. Urine ignores the question and asks Aaron if she can feel anything from him. Aaron thinks it through before answering, telling him that he has lost quite a bit of weight since the day before. When she mentions the weight aspect, Urine is shocked. Aaron then points out that Urine has been training every day and eating the soup, which has made him lose a lot of weight. However, he looks totally different overnight. Urine is surprised to hear this, but most importantly, he is relieved that Aaron can't sense the inner energy flowing through his body. This basically tells him that he is the only one who can use inner energy in this world, and no one else can detect it. With this, Urine is confident that he has gained incredible power, and he decides to keep practicing. He picks up the knives and starts throwing them to hit the target with precision. Aaron is shocked to see this, and she finally steps up, asking to try throwing the knives too. She picks up a knife, strikes her pose, and throws it. But to her surprise, the knife bounces off the target instead. Urine laughs, saying he is glad that there is something Aaron can't do. Urine then takes another glance at the status window, where he sees that he has unlocked the straight cut. This allows him to throw faster and stronger, and not only with memory objects. Basically, he can pick up anything and throw it with ultimate precision, just like he is doing with the knives. Urine is surprised to see this, and he decides to try it out without delay. Aaron is still busy beating herself up when Urine urges her to step aside. Aaron is shocked when she sees Urine holding a broken wooden sword. Urine stands in front of the target and he circulates energy through his body, and using the straight cut skill, he throws the damaged wooden sword. To Aaron's greatest surprise, the wooden sword shatters the target. Aaron screams in horror, and she asks Urine what sort of power he has running through his veins. Urine awkwardly replies that it is the power of practice, but Aaron is not a fool, and she knows that it is quite impossible. Urine then begs Aaron for a favor. He is aware that she reports his every move to his father, but he begs her not to tell his father about this in the meantime. Aaron wants to argue this, but Urine points out the fact that he is currently testing out several things, and he promises to explain everything to her later. All he just wants is for her to give him some time to put things in order. Aaron has no choice but to agree to this. Later that day, Urine follows one of the workers, Peru. Using the creator's eye, he figures out that the dude uses poison, but his affinity toward him is neutral. Urine immediately figures out that Peru is the person he is looking for, as he is the only one who can easily slip poison into his food without anyone realizing it. Using the arrow floating in his hand, Urine is able to target Peru, and he hits him with a paralytic poison that leaves a green trail. Peru gets hit before he even knows what is happening. He crashes to the ground and passes out while Urine is proud of himself. Thanks to the status window, Urine can see that the effect of the paralytic poison will last for an hour. Urine grabs the unconscious dude and takes him to a quiet warehouse. When the dude finally wakes up, he sees Urine standing in front of him, and he looks really menacing. Urine smiles evilly, and Peru already knows what is coming for him. Urine then urges Peru to answer his questions honestly if he wants to live to see another day. He asks him if he is the one who put poison in his soup. Urine tells Peru to blink once if the answer is correct, but if it is wrong, he should blink twice. He asks him again if he is the one who poisoned him, and he blinked once. He then follows through by asking if the poison was Hanyang herb, and Peru blinked once again. Urine is glad that Peru is cooperating with him, and he proceeds to the next question, where he asks Peru if Kaina was the one who asked him to carry out the poisoning. Peru blinked twice, saying it wasn't Kaina. Urine gets mad, and he whips out a knife, telling Peru to think again, since it would be best if he didn't lie to him. Urine lets him know that he has a way of seeing and knowing things. He assures him that he's going to cut his throat if he lies to him. Urine then asks the question again, and surprisingly Peru maintains his answer, saying the order didn't come from Kaina. Urine figures out that Peru is not lying, but he is left to wonder just who might have ordered him to be poisoned. Urine decides to find that out later, and he whips out a pill, telling Peru to swallow it. He lets him know that it is a paralytic poison, and he pushes the pill into his mouth. After Peru has swallowed it, Urine lets him know that he now has just 1 month to live. Urine assures Peru that all of his internal organs will melt away if he doesn't take the antidote within the space of 1 month. Since Peru doesn't want to die, Urine tells him that he will have to start following his orders. Peru trembles in fear, realizing that he has put himself in a compromising position. Urine then places his hand on Peru's head and uses his power to release the paralytic poison. With this, Peru can finally move and speak. Urine then asks the question again, demanding to know who ordered Peru to poison him. Peru finally reveals the truth, saying it was Knight Captain Karox Livingtane. Urine is shocked to hear this, and Peru reveals that Karox is planning to kill Urine by illness within the year. It turns out that Karox is Kaina's older brother, and he got the role of Knight Captain, thanks to her marriage to the Marquis. Urine is relieved that he is not totally wrong since Karox is Kaina's brother, which makes them accomplices. Urine then hands Peru a piece of paper, and written on the paper is a list of poisons. Since Peru is very knowledgeable in poisons, Urine believes that he can help procure them from the black market. Urine tells Peru to get the money he needs from Karox and gather every single poison on the list. Urine wants Peru to bring the poisons to him, and he orders him to start with the one he already has with him. Peru is shocked, and he asks Urine why he needs poisons. But Urine coldly replies, telling Peru that he never gave him permission to ask questions. Peru quickly apologizes, and Urine tells him that he is free to leave. Before leaving the room, Urine tells Peru that he wants a load of poison in his food from that moment forward. Peru hears this, leaving him in total disbelief. When Urine gets to his room, he starts celebrating because he managed to trick Peru into believing that there is actually poison in his system. What Urine fed him was just dried leaves that he lumped together. Urine then realizes that it is imperative that he learns the Sichuan Tang clan martial arts. Apparently something terrible will happen very soon, and he needs to be ready. The following night, Peru visits Urine to show him the poisonous herbs he has with him. He places them on a table, and Urine takes a good look at them. The first one is the Hanyang herb. The second one is Yekrupka. The leaf among them is called the wooden vein leaf. Peru is shocked that Urine knows all the poisons like they were nothing. Unknown to Peru, Urine can see their names via the status window. Urine asks Peru why he has the other poisons with him when he could have easily killed him with the Hanyang herb alone. Peru reveals that Hanyang herb takes a long time, and once resistance is developed, it actually lasts longer. However, mixing Yekrupka after Hanyang herb symptoms begin will increase the effects. Basically, poisons become more deadly when combined. Urine then asks Peru how he learned all about poisons, and he reveals that he was sold to the Livingtane family when he was 8, and he trained under a poison master there. Urine asks him if there are others like Peru and Livingtane. He replies that they were initially 20 kids, but they all died, leaving him as the sole survivor. Urine is not surprised by this because kids with low affinity for poison will die when they are exposed to toxins, but he notices that Peru hates the Livingtane family. He plans to use this to his advantage. After their discussion, Urine commends Peru for a job well done, and he lets him know that he is free to go for the day. After Peru's departure, Urine gets down to the consumption of the poisonous herbs. As he eats them, he gets the notifications from the status screen, but he soon reaches his limit, and the system urges him to engage in a breathing meditation. Urine does as the system suggests, and he manages to get the pain under control while meditating. The next morning, Aaron enters the room to find Urine in a state of meditation, but his body is now streamlined like a perfect bodybuilder. Aaron is shocked by what she is staring at, but on the other hand, Urine has managed to upgrade the 10,000 Venoms energy to stage 2. He acquires a bunch of martial arts techniques and poison techniques in the process too. Aaron is about to start talking about Urine's body when she perceives something rotten in the room. Urine doesn't know what to tell Aaron since he knows the reason behind the unpleasant smell. Apparently, when one's inner energy rises and their martial arts level up, the body releases a bulk load of waste at once. Since the room is stinking and the odor is obviously coming from him, Urine offers to open the window, but Aaron screams at him not to open the door. She tells Urine to head to the bathroom instead. After he is done bathing, Urine and Aaron head out. Urine is pleased with himself as he has been able to acquire a new skill, the So-ryong footwork. It is from the Tang family, and it is a perfect technique for fast movement, assassination, and evasion. Urine is glad that he is learning skills that only show up in wuxia novels. Urine is so glad that he is carried away while they walk on the road until Aaron snaps him back to reality. Aaron asks him why he is walking like a drunk all of a sudden. She wants to know if his body is not feeling well, but Urine quickly assures Aaron that he is fine. With this, the two continue moving, but Urine can't stop practicing his new move as he walks on the road like a drunk. Aaron then asks him if he is truly going to the first training hall to undergo training for the day. Aaron reminds Urine that there are a bunch of knights in the training hall, but Urine assures Aaron that she has nothing to worry about. Urine claims that he is only going there to see how the other knights go about their daily training sessions. Moments later, they arrive at the training hall, and just as expected, there are knights practicing their sword skills while screaming like maniacs. They are shocked when Urine and Aaron enter the training ground. Initially, they don't recognize the handsome dude who is behind Aaron, since he has changed a whole lot. It finally dawns on them that the person they are looking at is Urine, the Lord's son. They can't believe how much weight Urine has lost during training. The knights believe that Urine used some kind of sorcery to reduce his weight. While they are whispering, Urine can clearly hear all of them thanks to his inner energy. Aaron then points to a huge dude in front of them. She lets Urine know that he is a trainee knight, but because of his good form, he will soon become a junior knight. Urine takes a closer look and soon realizes that the dude is Cried. He is part of the main character in the novel, and he later becomes an ally to the protagonist. Urine didn't know about Cried's life before he met the hero. Urine is pleased with the fact that Cried is in the mansion because it might turn out to be a good thing for him later on. However, he is focusing on something else for the day. All the knights in the training hall hate his guts, and most of them just want to kill Urine. Urine stares at them, wondering if they are going to be his test subjects. Urine picks up a sword and decides to start with a poison named Prolonged Poison. It is still at level 1, and once ingested, it spreads to all the organs in moments. He activates the poison and remotely hits one of the knights with it. The knight crashes to the ground with his friends asking him if he is okay. They ask him if he needs to use the toilet, but he says no while rolling on the floor in pain. The knights realize how terrible the situation is and immediately suggest that they call for a priest. Suddenly, the knight gets back on his feet saying that the pain is gone. The others are shocked by this and they wonder if the dude was just messing with them. The dude tries to let them know that he was not faking it and he was truly in pain, but none of them believe him. Urine has seen how this works and he decides to try out the soul-killing smoke. This is a smoke that creates illusions, causing fear and confusion within a set range. The knights are still scolding their counterparts for faking his pain when Urine hits them with the soul-killing smoke. Immediately, everyone in the range of the effect starts to freak out. Apparently, a scary monster is standing in front of them, ready to devour them. They fall to the ground, pissing their pants while Urine laughs in the distance. Aaron, on the other hand, is confused as to what is happening. The situation becomes even worse for the affected knights as several monsters appear before them, tormenting them. When Urine has had his fill of pleasure, he takes off the illusion since he doesn't want to wait for the knights to start attacking each other. An argument ensues between them as they claim they all look like monsters. Urine decides that he is done with the day's experiment, but he is pleased with the way things went. Urine then tells Aaron that it is time for them to go back. Aaron is shocked since they have not done anything meaningful since they arrived. Urine claims that the training hall is noisy, and he suggests that they go to the 4th training hall instead. Moments later, one of the maids showed up to inform the two that a guest had just arrived at the mansion. Urine wonders who the guest is, and he soon learns that his fiancée, Ilya Marcus, has come to see him. While waiting for Urine, Ilya already has plans to cancel their engagement together. When Urine enters the room where she is waiting, Ilya's face turns red, and everything she has planned to do before seeing Urine starts flying out of her head and they are replaced with questions. Before entering the room to see Ilya, Urine had analyzed the situation. He knows that Ilya is good with her fists, and it was around this time in the story that Ilya demanded that they go their separate ways. However, the novel Urine kept refusing to let go. However, this time around, Ilya is shocked when she sees Urine. She starts asking him who he is. Urine is surprised by the question, and he lets Ilya know that it is none other than him. Ilya still doesn't want to believe as she starts freaking out, while Urine just calms her down, telling her that it's been a while. Ilya admits that she actually heard that Urine lost weight, but she assumed that it was a false rumor. Ilya says it hasn't been 2 months since she left, and she starts wondering how Urine is able to change that much in a short space of time. Urine then reveals that he was able to change that much because he trained really hard. This shocks Ilya, and Urine continues, revealing that after he got whooped by her, he started rethinking his life decisions, and because of this, he decided to change. Ilya asks him if he is trying to get revenge, but Urine says no. Just then, Urine does something surprising. He gets on his 2 knees and bows to Ilya, thanking her. This shocks the lady, who can't get to see her man on his knees. Urine reveals that he was able to change his ways, which is all thanks to Ilya. Urine lets Ilya know that he is truly sorry for what happened between them, but assures her that he will understand if she wants to break off the engagement. Ilya is dumbfounded when she sees this, leaving her to start questioning Urine's identity. Urine shocks Ilya again by admitting that he was a piece of trash. Urine knows that everything that happened is not his fault, but the idiot who was the former inhabitant of the body. However, the reason Urine is so passionate about asking for forgiveness is that Ilya is not just a simple heroine, but her Sword Queen trait, with her own trait, makes her get stronger and stronger over time. Later on in the story, she was able to save the fallen hero and even cut down the main villain. This was made possible thanks to her Sword Queen trait. Urine doesn't care if they break off the engagement, as long as he is able to repair the relationship and make Ilya his ally. Just then, Ilya asks Urine if he is serious about what he said, and he says yes. However, this is not enough for Ilya, as she demands that Urine swear by what he said. Ilya unleashes her aura, making her appear very dangerous while making the request. Urine cannot believe that Ilya will suffocate him with her scary aura, but it seems that he has seen the scene somewhere else before. Ilya then tells Urine to swear that he will not go back to his old ways, and if he breaks the oath, Ilya will be the one to beat him to death. Hearing this, Urine is shocked, since this is the same line that Ilya said to the protagonist, not Urine. Urine then decides to show Ilya that he is not messing around. He activates the 10,000 poisons, and the energy from his body consumes Ilya's aura. Urine then tells Ilya that he swears not to go back to his old ways. Ilya's face turns red from excessive blushing, but she manages to keep it in, and she tells Urine that she will be watching him. She lets him know that one more mistake from him means the engagement is off. Urine is shocked that Ilya is not breaking off the engagement. When Ilya meets with Willington in his chambers, the man is also shocked. Just like Urine when he learns that Ilya will not be breaking off the engagement. The Marquise is forced to ask Ilya why she is not breaking off the engagement. Ilya then mentions that her father has always told her that people can't be fixed, and when she heard the rumor that Urine had changed, she was curious. She wondered if he had gone back to the weak and kind Urine that he was when he was a kid. But to her greatest surprise, Urine was a completely different person. Because of this, Ilya is taking the risk to trust Urine one more time. However, Ilya lets the Marquis know that she will beat Urine to death if he ever goes back to his old ways. The Marquis is relieved to hear this, and he urges Ilya to take good care of Urine. Ilya stands up to leave, and the Marquis urges her to stay a few days, but she refuses, revealing that she already told her father that she is coming to break off the engagement. The Marquis then suggests that she should at least see Urine train before she goes, but she refuses again, saying she doesn't want to distract him. Later that day, the Marquis calls Urine to his room. He teases him when he enters the room, asking him who he is. Before Urine can start freaking out, the Marquis quickly reveals that he is only pulling his legs. Willington pats his son on the shoulders to commend him for how hard he has been working. Willington asks Urine if he knows why he called him, and he tells his father that it must be about his nightly training. His father is glad that he has gotten wise too. The Marquis believes that it is time Urine learns the swordsmanship of the Rox family. Just then, Urine tells the Marquis that he has something important to inform him concerning the issue of knight training. Instead of training to become a knight, Urine shocks his father, saying he wants to learn throwing arts instead of swordsmanship. His father immediately gets furious, saying he cannot allow this since it is a cheap technique used by thieves. The Marquis claims that with a throwing technique, he won't be able to cut through a knight's armor, not to mention the bodies of scary monsters. Urine immediately puts up a suggestion, telling his father that they should make a bet. He wants them to make a bet on whether he can catch the beast Borak with a dagger or not. The Marquis hears this and believes that Urine is just being stubborn. He tells him that a warrior's blade needs to be infused with aura to be able to break through the scales of a Borak. The Marquis believes that even if Urine trains for 100 years, his throwing knives will not be able to break through the Borak's scales. Since this is Willington's belief, Urine urges him to make the bet. The Marquis decides to indulge Urine on the bet, and Willington asks him what he plans to wager. Urine tells the Marquis that if he manages to defeat the Borak with his dagger, he will be the one to handle his training, but if he fails, he will follow his father's will. With this, the two make their bet. Urine returns to his room with relief because he realizes that Aaron hasn't told his father about his training yet. Since the practical test is the next day, Urine wonders how many tries it will take him to break the Borak's scales. To prepare for the test, Urine decides that he needs to eat some poisoned herbs just in case. He plans to raise the divine arts to the 3rd star. Just then, Aaron enters the room with a message from the Marquis. Apparently, the Marquis has picked the time and venue. The test will be held at noon the next day, and they will use the first training hall. Urine then asks her if she knows the details of the bet, and she says yes. However, she is not the only one who knows it. The entire estate is aware of the bet that they made. Because of this, the entire estate is laughing because they are pretty sure Urine will pee his pants when he faces the Borak. Aaron reveals that everyone is having fun chatting about how he is going to fail since he is the #1 public enemy. This gets to Urine, and he asks Aaron if everyone is coming to watch the test. Aaron replies that the Marquis allowed it, so the training hall will be packed with people. Urine sighs when he hears this, but then he asks Aaron for her thoughts. Aaron bows her head while saying she believes that the following day will be Urine's day. That night, Urine did as promised, and he increased the divine arts to the 3rd star. The next day, Urine is shocked when he realizes that the training hall is packed with people as if they are there to watch an arena match. Before the exam begins, Urine assures his father that he is ready, but he points out the fact that the entire area is packed with people. His father reveals that it was his intention to tell only his magician, but for some reason, the news spread everywhere. The Marquis then urges Urine to do well not to embarrass himself. Once everything is in order, the magician begins the summoning ritual to call forth the Borak. The summoning is successful, and a monster appears from the smoke. Urine is excited to physically see a monster that he, as the author, created with words. Apparently, Borak is an ocean monster with a height of 150 centimeters. Immediately, the monster emerges from the summoning circle, and the spectators start to panic. Urine is shocked to see what the Borak looked like since it is a monster that he came up with when he was eating a rockfish sashimi at a restaurant and couldn't think of monster ideas. Urine doesn't show any sign of fear in front of the Borak since he can only see a cute monster if only its arms were taken away. Suddenly, the monster comes charging at Urine. It almost catches Urine while he is zoned out, but thanks to his slick movement, he is able to dodge the attack. Since the monster is charging at him without warning, Urine decides to get serious. He whips out one of his throwing knives to test how strong the Borak scales are. Surprisingly, a target appears in front of him, pointing to a particular area on the monster's body, and Urine assumes that it is the monster's weak point. He decides to try out this hypothesis, and he throws the knife in the direction of the target. The knife penetrates the target, causing the monster to scream in pain before crashing to the ground, dead. Urine is disappointed that the Borak died with just one hit. The Marquis and the spectators are left in awe when they see this happen. The entire hall soon roars in celebration of Urine defeating the Borak. The magician steps into the training hall to officially announce that Urine has defeated the Borak. The Marquis leaves his seat and rushes over to Urine to ask him how he managed to take down the Borak in just a hit. Urine awkwardly replies that he only aimed well and he managed to hit the mark. The Marquis doesn't want to accept the result since the Borak died from a single dagger strike. He argues that it doesn't make sense, and Urine quickly cuts in, asking if the Marquis is trying to go back on his word. Just then, the magician tells the Marquis that Urine targeted the Borak's arm where there are no scales. Upon hearing this, the Marquis screams at Urine, telling him that he was able to defeat the monster out of sheer luck. Urine doesn't want to argue with his father, as he tells him that he won the bet, even if it was a lucky throw or not. Urine turns to walk away, but his father tells him to do the test one more time. Urine doesn't want to agree until the Marquis increases the stakes. He tells Urine that he will grant him one wish if he manages to win the second round. Urine is excited to hear that he gets to have a wish. However, the Marquis switches things up, saying his opponent will not be the Borak but a knight. Urine's father asks him if he is okay with the new rules, and he says yes. Urine doesn't really care who his opponent is because this might actually be his chance, since he might be going up against Karox. However, he decides to let things be since he still needs Karox to supply Peru with money to get the poison that he needs. The Marquis then suggests that they start with a trainee knight. Urine asks his father if he can choose his opponent, and he gives him the go-ahead to do so. Without hesitation, Urine chooses Kryde as his opponent. Moments later, Kryde comes rushing to the arena from where he is. He bows to the Marquis, who tells him that he has a task for him. Kryde assures the Marquis that he will follow whatever instructions he lays out. Just then, Willington points to his son and he tells Kryde to teach the brat a proper lesson. Kryde is shocked when he hears this, and the Marquis notices this. He immediately asks him if he can't do it, but Kryde tells the Marquis that he is up to the task. Suddenly, Urine says something outrageous. He tells Kryde that he is going to throw only 3 daggers at him, and if he manages to block all 3, he wins the match. The Marquis is shocked to hear this, and he tells Kryde to put his arrogant son in his place. Meanwhile, Kryde's friends in the arena are teasing him, telling him that if he loses, there will be no dinner for him. One even tells him that he will have to do 100 laps around the training ground if he loses. Before the match starts, Urine hears a girl's voice among the spectators, telling him that he can do it. This is enough motivation for Urine as he whips out his dagger, ready to take on Kryde. Just as they are about to start the match, several target areas appear on Kryde's body, stunning Urine. Urine is worried that he might kill Kryde the same way he killed the Borak, but he can't afford to do this. Urine then decides to try something else. He uses so much force to throw the dagger, and it hits Cride's blade, leaving a loud sound like that of a cannon, shocking everyone in the arena. The dagger falls off, and the Marquis picks it up, wondering how an ordinary dagger is able to produce that much force. Cride's sword has suffered a dent, and the force from the throw leaves him shaken. Urine subtly tells Cride that he is now warmed up, but he lets him know that the first throw is a warning. Urine lets him know that the next throw is going to pack a punch. Urine believes that Cride will not die from what he is about to do since he is a supporting lead character. Urine then throws his dagger once again, and as it spins toward Cride, he tries blocking it with his sword. But this leaves a loud bang and a cloud of smoke. This shocks everyone, including the Marquis. When the smoke clears, Cride is completely shaken, and his sword has shattered. Cride's sword falls from his hand, and the Marquis walks up to his son. He demands they go somewhere private to talk, but Urine reminds his father that the match is not over yet since he still has one dagger left. Willington's eyes light up in fear, and he tells Urine not to take things too far. Urine then suggests that they hear from Cride himself. Urine walks up to Cride, telling him to raise his head, and he asks him if he would like it to end the way it is. Urine reminds Cride that he is a knight in training and he is not supposed to accept such a trash outcome. Since bringing things to a definite end is the way of the knight, Urine then asks Cride again if he is ready to give up. Cride stutters before demanding that they give him a new sword. Cride's aura swirls around him, while revealing his determination not to back down. Everyone, including the Marquis, is blown away that Cride is still a knight-to-be, but he has already awakened his aura. Apparently, this is what Urine wants from the start. Cride has a trait, the Berserker, which only manifests at a breaking point. Since Cride has improved his defense by awakening his aura and entering Berserker mode, Urine believes that it is time he tries out a higher-level technique. Cride urges Urine to throw his dagger, but the Marquis is surprised that Cride could manifest an aura that is so much that it can be compared to the talent of a high-ranking knight. He wonders what his son would do in this situation. Urine aims his dagger and throws it. However, this time around, the dagger spins as it approaches Cride. Cride is shocked as he is left in disarray, wondering why the dagger is slow, unlike the others. Cride gets mad, believing that Urine is messing with him. This time around, he decides to raise his sword to try and block the dagger, but before he can hit the dagger, it spins past his sword. Cride cannot recover from this, and he ends up getting hit in the shoulder. However, the dagger manages to slow down before it reaches Cride's shoulder bone. Even with this, Cride still feels immense pain as he falls to his knees, screaming in pain. Everyone is shocked to see this, leaving them to wonder what just happened. Since the dagger was very slow and Cride is screaming in pain, his fellow knights tell him to stop faking it. They assume that he is acting that way because he doesn't want to disgrace Urine. Unknown to them, Urine infused the last throw with more internal energy, which is why the pain is extreme. Just then, the Marquis calls Urine, telling him that they need to talk, but he lets him know that he has won the bet already. Urine walks up to Cride, and he places his hand on the site of the injury. Urine starts absorbing the internal energy lodged in his shoulder, and with this, the pain disappears, shocking Cride. Cride stands on his feet, and he bows to Urine, thanking him. Cride also apologizes for assuming that Urine was looking down on him because of the dagger's speed. Cride admits that the dagger throw is an impressive art, and he believes that Urine couldn't have learned it in such a short space of time, making him believe that Urine has been hiding his true strength all along. Cride then starts whispering, asking Urine if he was hiding his power because some secret faction is targeting the Marquis's house. When Urine hears this, he realizes why Cride is always by himself. Cride is the type of dude who actually likes conspiracy theories. Cride then bows to Urine, assuring him that he will be there to help when he wants to fight against the secret organization. Because of their short interaction with each other, Cride's favorability for Urine jumps to 26%. Urine is happy to hear this, and he assures Cride that he will be seeing him around. As Urine walks away, Cride screams, telling Urine that he is going to spread the news that he is a good guy. Urine, on the other hand, is glad that he is getting close to Cride because he will one day destroy the Night Order by himself. Erin walks up to meet Urine, and she commends him for a job well done. She then mentions that she has not seen Urine use the last technique he used before. Urine quickly tells Erin that it is a new technique, and he asks her what she thinks about it. Erin admits that she also would have been defeated if she were facing the technique for the very first time. However, she is confident that she can now block it. Urine knows that this is not a bluff on Erin's part. Apparently, Erin has a trait called Clear Mirror that allows her to quickly adapt to situations and scenarios. Urine then asks Erin if she is fine with the life she is currently living, because if she is not serving as his attendant, she can easily become a high-ranking knight. Erin is surprised, and she demands to know why Urine is suddenly asking such a question. Later on, Urine meets the Marquis in his office. Willington screams at his son to call him father whenever they are alone, because being so formal makes them feel distant. Urine awkwardly agrees, and he addresses the man as father. The Marquis then asks Urine about the technique that he used during the duel. He has been going through the archives and couldn't find anything related to the type of technique that Urine used. The man says Urine has only been training for a month, which makes it pretty impossible to learn such a skill in a short space of time. The Marquis demands that Urine tell him the truth, but Urine knows that he obviously can't tell him what the truth is. However, he had already prepared something just in case something like this came up. Urine then lies that he found a book when he was looking through the family's archives for effective training methods. He explains that a book on the top shelf suddenly fell on him. Apparently, there was no writing on the cover of the book, but there was a strange pattern that was engraved on it. Urine says he didn't think much about the book, and when he opened it, a light appeared from it, shining on his face. In the process, something enters his head, and after this, the book disappears. The Marquis is shocked to hear this and immediately tells Urine that he must have encountered a grimoire. Urine was expecting this since he was the one who created the concept. He put it down that a grimoire is a way to pass down techniques or magic by engraving them into a book through the power of a great mage. The Marquis doesn't doubt his son's words because the archive contains lots of books that have been collected by their ancestors, and even the Marquis doesn't know everything in the archives. The Marquis then tells Urine that fate must have bestowed upon him a great fortune, which is why he came across the book. The Marquis then tells Urine that he is going to keep to his promise, and he won't force him to learn swordsmanship. And for the other promise, which is a wish, the Marquis asks him what he wants. Just then, Urine demands something that shocks his father. He tells his father that he wants the position of the heir, leaving his father's jaw on the floor. Urine is surprised by his father's reaction, asking him if he cannot grant the wish if that is what he wants. His father reveals that it is actually within his authority to grant it. Urine mentions that his father's expression is pointing to something else, and he knows his father is hesitant because he knows it would cause him problems. There are many people within the Marquisate who would oppose the declaration, especially Kaina. Because he knows how troubled his father would be, he tells him that he will be yielding this time around. The Marquis is relieved to hear, and he thanks Urine. In reality, Urine is not even interested in the position of the successor because if he becomes the heir, he will have to spend the entire day with his father, so he can receive education on how to manage the Marquisate, which basically means his freedom is gone. Instead of this, Urine would rather improve his skills and travel the world on an adventure. His father then asks Urine for another wish since he has forfeited the last one. Urine lets his father know that he plans to create his own knight order. The Marquis is shocked to hear this, and Urine reveals that he plans to appoint Aaron and Cried to the order as his knights. Since the request is not as difficult as the successor's position, the Marquis grants Urine's wish. Urine bows to his father, thanking him. The Marquis then asks Urine how he will go about getting a new butler because all of the current butlers have someone they are serving. Urine then reveals that he has someone in mind and this person is Peru who works in the kitchen. Urine wants the Marquis to make it seem like he was the one who appointed him, instead of making it seem like it was Urine's choice. The Marquis is surprised to hear this, and he asks Urine if there is something wrong, but Urine assures his father that he will explain to him later. The Marquis then decides not to ask further questions as he seems to be trusting his son day by day. It turns out that his affinity has jumped up to 74%. Even Urine is shocked that the affinity has gone up, but he assumes that it is because he is the Marquis's son. Later on, Urine informs Aaron and Cried that they are now part of his knight order, and he wants them to continue training diligently. In addition to this, he introduces the new butler Peru to them, assuring them that Peru will be attending to all of their needs. Earlier on, Urine and Aaron had talked about the new arrangement. Urine had come clean, telling Aaron that Peru is actually a spy, which is why he will be replacing Aaron as the butler. Urine reveals that Peru was sent to assassinate him by Kaina and Karox. Aaron was even more surprised to hear this, and she questioned Urine's decision to keep Peru close when he is after his life. Urine assured Aaron that she has nothing to worry about because Peru listens to only him. With this, Urine is able to get Aaron to agree to his plans. Back at the meeting, Cried raises his hand to ask a question. After he has been given the permission to speak, Cried asks why there is no vice captain, at least since they have decided to call themselves the Knight Order. However, the vice captain must be someone who possesses outstanding skills. Cried believes that Aaron is not worthy to be in the Knight Order since she is small and frail. Before he can continue talking, Urine cuts in, agreeing with him that the vice captain needs to be strong. To settle this, Urine tells them that they will engage in a duel. Moments later, Cried gets defeated by Aaron, shocking him. While lying down on the floor, defeated, Aaron gives him swordsmanship lessons. She lets him know that his attacks are too simple and can be easily read. Cried doesn't take offense at this. Rather, he assures the lady that he will take the advice to heart. Since Aaron won, Urine says the captain's position has been decided. Peru is shocked when Urine makes Aaron the leader of the Knight Order. Everyone claps for Aaron, and not long after this, Peru prepares to leave so he can prepare dinner. Once he realizes that Peru is a bit far from where he is, Urine decides to try out a new technique that allows him to telepathically speak to his target. Urine calls Peru's name, shocking him. He turns around, but Urine continues calling him repeatedly. Peru almost loses his mind until Urine scolds him for acting weird. Peru then asks if Urine is communicating with him via black magic, but Urine explains that it is a simple communication magic. It starts to dawn on Peru that Urine is a special being since he is resistant to poison, and he can use some really weird techniques. Urine tells Peru that he is free to go with whatever theory he has in his head, but he asks him if the poison he requested is ready. Peru replies that the poison is ready. Apparently the poison is called snake mind, and it is a poison that is extracted from 100 vipers. Even though Peru is skilled, he barely managed to prepare the poison. Urine is glad that the poison is ready, and he tells Peru to add loads of it to the chirin soup that he is going to eat. Trembling in fear, Peru acknowledges his master's orders. Later that night, Urine realizes that since he reached the 3rd star, his progress has been somewhat slow since his internal energy has not been rising as quickly as he thought it would. Since he doesn't know when the world crisis will begin, Urine believes that it is time he leaves the Marquisate. Shortly afterward, Urine meets his father, telling him that he wants to leave for a while. His father asks him for the duration of time he will be gone, and since he doesn't want to create suspicions, he tells his father that he will be gone for a week. The Marquis has no problem with this since Urine has been diligently training, but he asks him how he plans to handle the escort. Urine shocks his father, telling him that he doesn't need an escort. The Marquis protests against this, reminding Urine of the important position that he holds in the family. Urine tries telling his father that there is no need for an escort since he is only going to neighboring villages, but the Marquis cuts him short. The Marquis reveals that the world has become a very dangerous place, and even though he has gotten a bit stronger, he is worried that his son might get poisoned. Urine realizes that it will be hard for him to convince the Marquis, and he decides to move to Plan B. Urine lets his father know that he is ready to comply, so he doesn't need to worry. The Marquis is happy to hear this, and he asks his son when he will be leaving. Urine replies that he will be leaving in 2 days. With this in mind, the Marquis says he will prepare an escort before then, but Urine has no intention of waiting around for some escort, since he is planning to sneak out the next day. Urine calls Peru to his chambers and reveals that he is going on a trip, but he doesn't have money, so he needs Peru to lend him some. Peru is hesitant, but when he feels the dark and scary aura coming from Urine's body, he quickly obliges. Urine then asks him if he still has his subspace pouch with him. Urine had earlier seen the pouch with him. Apparently, the subspace pouch is a common setting in fantasy novels, and it is a mysterious pouch that can take about a ton of cargo. Peru has no choice but to give his subspace pouch to Urine too. Because of this, Urine is happy that he won't have to carry a bag with him. Urine then hands Peru the lump of dried leaves that he is disguising as an antidote. He tells Peru that it is a month's worth of antidotes for the poison in his system. Urine plays his card very well, telling Peru that he has been a worthy servant. Because of this, he assures Peru that he is going to give him the permanent cure very soon. The next morning, Urine leaves a letter and then sneaks out. He thinks he won't run into anyone until he runs into an old gardener, who is emitting a heavy aura from his body. He notices something strange about the old man, but he continues on his journey nonetheless. Moments later, Urine arrives at the Tower of Magic. He walks into the building, and when the attendant asks him what he wants, he basically tells him that he would like to use a warp. The attendant asks him if he has used it before, and he says no. The attendant reveals that they provide mileage points, which is like those of airplanes. The attendant asks Urine where he is headed, and he replies that Asu Castle. Because of how far the location is, the attendant tells him that his fee is 50 gold. After he is given the price, he is told to pay and sign the ticket. Urine already expected that the fee would be expensive, but he is thankful that Peru has enough money to give him. Urine decides to write a fake name, and he goes with Polion, which is a name he uses in online games. After he is done with the registration, Urine is taken to the room where the warping machine is located. The attendant tells him that the moment he hears a knock, it means he has arrived at his destination. Urine steps onto the machine, and it gives off a lightning signal. Moments later, Urine arrives at his destination. He is welcomed by another attendant, who tells him that he has arrived at the Asu Castle. Urine is shocked, since he didn't feel a thing. The old man lets him know that this is how it is because the Tower of Magic has designed the warping machine to give off a warping sensation. Urine is surprised by the name they gave to the phenomenon. He realizes that he might have given it the name instead of the intended ride comfort. With this, the attendant wishes him well, and once Urine steps out of the Tower of Magic, Urine is now in the Asayo Castle, which is in the western region, unlike his homeland. The area looks completely different from the ones in his homeland, and there are lots of people in the region too. However, Urine is not concerned with that. As his major concern is the blacksmith alley, he asks one of the people he comes across and they describe it for him. Urine starts checking out the alleys, but couldn't find what he was looking for. It is already getting late, but he decides to check the last alley. He soon finds a blacksmith shop and he walks in. He asks the attendant if he knows of the person who goes by the name Unicorn Forge. The dude then tells Urine that there is no one with the name in the area, leaving Urine to start questioning himself. He believes that he misread it, but while he was thinking about this, the dude tells him that he is actually planning to name his shop that. When Urine hears this, he uses the creator's eye on the dude. He finds out that his name is Jirano, and he is a pretty good blacksmith. Urine grins like a kid when he sees this, as he realizes that he has finally found the right place. Urine then demands to see the weapons that he has made, and Jirano obliges. As they look through his creations, Urine asks Jirano how his business has been faring. Jirano claims his skills are not the best, which is why he is stuck in the back alley. In fact, whenever customers enter, they just take a look and leave. Because of poor sales, Jirano reveals that he doesn't know how much longer he can hold out. Urine then notices some swords hanging on the wall. One of the swords is a wind spirit sword, which has been imbued with the blessing of the wind spirit, Sylph. The sword increases attack speed, movement speed, and agility. The other sword is Flame Spirit Greatsword. It is a sword that has been imbued with the blessing of the lower fire spirit Salamander. The sword increases stamina, strength, and endurance. Urine then asks Jirano if he is the one who made the swords, and he says yes. However, he believes that after he finished making them, they turned out to be total failures. Apparently, the swords became so heavy that even someone strong can barely lift them, so no one ends up buying them. After he is done saying this, Urine knows that it is not Jirano's fault. The swords became heavy because unworthy humans touched them. Apparently, the sword will grant immense power to whoever is worthy. Since Urine knows this, he tells Jirano that he will be buying the swords, leaving Jirano totally shocked. Jirano thinks the swords are a failure, but Urine knows that both swords are perfect for Aaron and Cried. However, Urine is still after some other treasures. Suddenly, Urine asks the blacksmith if he has rusted weapons. Jirano has a bunch, and he brings them out. Jirano is surprised that Urine wants them since he already considered them a waste. Urine is glad that he met the bunch the same way he set it up. He dips his hand into the container and brings out a dagger, telling Jirano that he wants the dagger. Jirano is shocked since he wasn't the one who made the dagger. He only found it in the storage room and he has no idea how it got there in the first place. Jirano is shocked when Urine says he is going to be picking the dagger alongside the swords. Jirano concludes that Urine is only after defective stuff. Jirano tells Urine to give him just 2 gold coins, and he will give him the dagger for free. Urine is glad that he got a sweet deal, but he is the only one who knows how valuable the weapon is. Just then, he realizes that it is not only about the weapons, but about the blacksmith himself. Urine then offers him the chance to close down his shop and work for him instead, since he already said business is going so well for him. Jirano is shocked by the offer, and he reveals that it is coming too suddenly, which is why he doesn't know what to say. Jirano admits that he has thought about closing down, but he never thought he would get an offer like this. After he says this, Urine decides to introduce himself to the blacksmith. Urine introduces himself as the Invincible Spear, who is the protector of the South. After he is done with the title, he reveals his real name. Jirano is stunned when he realizes that he is standing in the presence of the Marquise's son. He immediately falls to his knees, apologizing to Urine while saying he never expected someone as noble as him to enter his trash shop. Urine urges the dude to stand up, but he refuses, and he demands that Urine say everything he wants to say, while his head remains on the ground. Realizing that he can't convince him, Urine decides to speak. After hearing everything Urine has to say, Jirano asks him why he would consider helping someone like him, and he replies that he is pretty talented. Jirano is surprised to hear Urine say he has talent because he doesn't see himself in the categories of talented blacksmiths, since he gets scolded by his master every day. Urine mentions that he has been going around checking other forges, but Jirano's shop stands out. Jirano asks him how his shop stood out from the rest, and Urine lets him know that sincerity is the key. Urine explains that he has seen the way he made his weapons and the extreme detailing about them. Because of this, Urine lets him know that he will one day wake up as a special talent. This is something that Urine made up on the spot, but he hopes that Jirano falls for it. Fortunately for him, he did, and Jirano reveals that he will follow him. Jirano then mentions that Urine is different from the rumors he has heard about him. Urine then decides that it is time he shows the blacksmith something interesting. Jirano watches as Urine pinches his finger with the dagger and orders it to awaken. It turns out that the dagger is the relic of myriad forms, Agnes. Jirano's jaw hits the floor when the dagger starts to levitate with a white aura surrounding it. The blacksmith starts wondering what is happening. Apparently, the weapon is a legendary ego sword, and it was the protagonist who was supposed to get it. The system asks Urine if he wants to form a contract with Agnes, and he says yes. Just then, the weapon transforms into a water molecule, and from inside, the voice of a girl comes out, demanding to know who is trying to form a contract with her. Agnes mocks Urine, telling him that he is pretty talentless. Urine soon realizes that Agnes is pissed because she can't sense mana from him. After she is done mocking him, she asks him how he knew she was there and how he also knew the spell to release her. Urine replies that he heard it from the Great Prophet. Urine was the one who shoved the prophet into the story for consistency. Even though Urine mentions this, Agnes believes that he is lying. She wants to know why the Great Prophet would waste their time on a talentless person like Urine. Agnes then asks Urine if he knows what she can do, and he says yes. This is an easy question since he is the one who wrote the settings. Urine explains that Agnes can split her body into the main body and the sub-body as two separate weapons. Each of these bodies can then transform into any weapon based on the wielder's imagination. During the main story, the hero fought using a sword and shield. And even though the sub-body was lost, it always finds its way back to the main body. After saying everything, Agnes suggests that Urine give up on trying to wield her since she can only be wielded through mana. Just then, Urine points a finger at Agnes, telling her that she is noisy. Suddenly, Agnes turns into a ring and wraps around Urine's finger. It turns out that Urine was able to commandeer Agnes because his martial arts substitute for his lack of mana. Urine then asks Jirano how much time he needs to pack up, and he says 2 days. Urine then tells him to meet him in front of the Asao castle in 2 days, at noon. Later on, Urine is walking through the streets when he suddenly runs into his fiancée. They are both shocked, and Ilya asks Urine why he is in the region. Urine almost enters the ground when he sees Ilya, as she is the last person he expects to find in the region. Urine realizes that the scene is somewhat familiar to how Ilya met the protagonist in the original story. It dawns on Urine that the main storyline has received a bit of a tweak. While he is still trying to figure out what is going on, Ilya asks him once again what he has come to do in the area. Urine chuckles nervously before revealing that he came to find a blacksmith. Ilya mentions that their family has loads of blacksmiths, and Urine agrees to this but says he wanted to hire his own man. Ilya says she would have helped him if he had told her earlier, but Urine assures her that there is no need for that since he has found the right person for the job. Speaking of the devil, Jirano appears on the scene. Urine then introduces Jirano to his fiancée. Momentarily, the squad leader of Ilya's escorts, Musk, asks her who she is talking to, and when she says Urine, Musk is blown away. He appears to be flustered by Urine's presence, and he starts introducing himself down to the minute details. Urine returns the gesture, but even if he doesn't say anything, Urine knows who he is. He is the one who wrote the story, so there is no character hidden from him. Urine knows that he is a background character who can't stand the poor. Apparently, it was supposed to take on another dimension in the novel. A hooded figure was supposed to block Musk's path and the night as they moved. Musk talked trash to the person, but at that moment the hero stepped forward. A fight breaks out, but Ilya manages to arrive on the scene just in time to stop the fight, and after this the two become Romeo and Juliet. Not long after this, the hero accompanied Ilya in battle and saved her from a life-and-death situation. Since he can't find the hero at the moment to get him to help, Urine realizes that he has no choice. He has to save Ilya and prevent her from dying. Urine then asks Ilya where they are headed, and she reveals that there are reports of raids by orcs near Asu Castle. Apparently, the orcs are growing in numbers, and Ilya and her squad have been given the order to wipe out the orcs. Just then, Urine asks Ilya for a favor, and this is him escorting her. Ilya is shocked to hear this, and she demands to know why Urine wants to come. Urine simply replies that he wants combat experience since he is still in training. In addition to this, he tells Ilya that he would like to see her skills. Ilya lets Urine know that it could turn out dangerous, but Urine assures her that he can handle himself despite how frail he looks. Ilya thinks over it for a minute, and once she is done, she orders Musk to provide Urine and the blacksmith horses. Musk protests against this, telling Ilya that they are not going on a picnic. In addition to this, he doesn't want them to let their guard down even if they are going up against ordinary orcs. Musk adds further that he can't sense a trace of mana from Urine and the blacksmith. Musk continues rambling until Ilya gets serious and lets him know that she just gave him an order. Musk has no choice but to do this, but he is not happy with it, even though there is nothing he can do about it. As they ride for their destination, Ilya tells Urine to always stay by her side since they are heading to a dangerous location. Urine assures Ilya that he will follow her every move. It turns out that Urine and Jirano are sharing the same horse, and Urine urges him to hold on to him tight. With this, they start riding to the target destination. When they reach the presumed location, Ilya tells her team that they will have to split into teams of 5 to find the orc settlement. She urges them not to attack if they find it. She wants them to retreat and fire a signal flare. With this, the group split up. After hours of searching, one of the knights asks Ilya what they are to do since it is already getting late. Ilya then says they have no choice but to turn back and come back the next day. Suddenly, they see a signal flare in the air. However, another flare soon goes up in the air again. In no time, 4 flares go up in the air. Ilya then suggests that they head to the nearest flare, which is to the west. Her squad immediately follows her, but by the time they get there, all the soldiers are already dead. Ilya is horrified by the way the soldiers were all killed. One of the soldiers notices that the armor on their bodies was shattered, leaving them to wonder what sort of weapon hit them. Ilya then orders that they head to the south to check on the soldiers there. By the time they reach there, they meet the same horrific scene from where they are coming from. All the soldiers are already dead, and one of the knights suggests that they move to the next location. Ilya agrees with him, but Yurin stops them, saying they can't move at the moment. Ilya is shocked when Yurin says this, wondering what he meant by it. Yurin points out that the orcs are hunting down their soldiers and are currently winning. Yurin lets Ilya know that they are outnumbered and have no chance of winning. Yurin wants them to fire the signal and gather the rest of the troops. Just then, one of the soldiers screams at Yurin, telling him to keep his mouth shut because he is a nobody. The soldier blames Yurin for what is currently happening. While this is happening, Yurin remembers that the protagonist also got cursed at the same spot. Because of this, readers got frustrated and scolded our guy for dragging things on. Hearing the soldier speak to him this way starts to fire up Yurin's PTSD. As he continues to ramble, Yurin tells him to shut his mouth. Yurin hits him with an attack before he can even realize it, and he falls off his horse. Yurin tells him to know his place and remain where he is. The soldier is forced to answer Yurin like his boss, since he is already paralyzed. He then tells him to watch and see. Yurin raises his hand, and with this, the dude is able to move again. In the main story, Ilya didn't listen to the hero and did what she thought was right. However, Yurin wants to see if it will be different this time around. He asks Ilya what her choice will be. Surprisingly, Ilya agrees with Yurin, and she orders her men to fire the blue signal flare immediately. She wants the troops to be gathered where they are. The soldiers do as told, and they fire the flares into the air. The soldiers then start tending to their fallen comrades, while the blacksmith walks over to Yurin to tell him that he is amazing. He says Yurin was able to make items move the way he wanted, but Yurin doesn't count it as a big deal. He asks Yurin if the soldiers are going to meet up with them, but Yurin lets him know that most of the soldiers won't make it. Apparently, Yurin knows what he is doing, and he is actually waiting for the real fight to come to him. Suddenly, a soldier comes toward their position, telling Ilya that they need to run. The soldier looks absolutely terrified, as if he had seen a ghost. Coming behind the soldiers is a bunch of scary and powerful orcs. Just the sheer numbers of the orcs send chills down the soldiers' spines. Ilya turns to Yurin and apologizes to him because he's about to die, and it is all her fault. Just then, Yurin tells Ilya not to worry because no one is dying. Just as he says this, he walks toward the orcs, shocking Ilya. Ilya is confused as she watches Yurin approach the orcs before summoning Agnes. He tells her that it is time they try what they have been practicing for the past 2 days. Yurin tells Agnes to generate iron bullets, and Agnes follows his orders. Apparently, this is a technique that Yurin acquired after reaching 3-star of the 10,000 Poison's body, but he has never had the chance to use it. The skill is called Black Iron. It releases concealed weapons filled with inner strength by detonating black iron bullets. The required weapon for this is a black iron bullet. Yurin then shoots the bullet at the orcs, and it lands in their midst without doing any damage, leaving the orcs to stare at Yurin like a fool. Suddenly, the bullet explodes, tearing apart every orc in its range. The remaining orcs are shocked when they see this, but Yurin is not yet done with them. Yurin recalls the bullet and launches it again. This time around, it pierces through the orcs before exploding and turning them to pulp. Yurin recalls the bullet again, and Ilya asks him what it is that he is throwing. Yurin reveals that it is called the Black Iron Blast. Yurin smiles at Ilya, promising to tell her the details about the weapon later. With Yurin's 2 consecutive attacks, he has drastically reduced the orcs. Ilya is motivated by this, and she immediately screams at her soldiers, telling them to get into action. She lets them know that they can win, and she urges them to strike down the rest of the orcs. Ilya charges forward, and her soldiers follow suit. Ilya slices off an orc's head as if it were tissue paper, and her soldiers also follow her lead. One of the orcs realizes that they are no longer a match for the soldiers and turns around to run. However, he runs into a red brick wall. The red brick wall turns out to be a giant red orc with a terrifying aura. The red orc grabs the escaping soldier by the head and crushes him. The soldiers and the rest of the orcs on the scene almost wet themselves at the sight of the terrifying monster in front of them. The red orc is so giant that regular green orcs look like peanuts compared to him. The red orc is also wielding a building-sized blade, but Yurin doesn't look surprised as he is already expecting the legendary red orc warrior Karuta. Yurin knows that they will all be done for unless they kill Karuta that very day. The orc warrior Karuta lets off an overwhelming aura before swinging his large sword to take out most of the warriors standing close to him, He then leaps toward Ilya, and because of the sudden show of force, Ilya freezes in fear. Fortunately, Urien gets there just in time to grab her to prevent her from dying. Once she is safe, she turns around to see her subordinates' bodies lying everywhere, and she is broken. Urien turns to the orc and fires the black iron blast at it. Karuta effortlessly blocks the shot, leaving a big explosion right on his face, but he remains unhurt. Initially, Urien is aware of the fact that an orc warrior has really tough skin, but he never knew it was this tough. Ilya pulls herself together and screams at the orc in rage. She pulls her sword and activates a dangerous technique to charge at the orc. Ilya lands several deadly cuts on the orc, which leaves her subordinates cheering for her. Even Urien is impressed, since this is the first time he is witnessing Ilya's broken skill, the Sword Queen trait. However, Karuta soon turns the tables when he unleashes his aura, shocking the fighting spirit out of Ilya. Powered by aura, the orc swings his sword at her, breaking her sword, but she manages to escape with her life. She returns to her team and nervously tells them that it might sound really shameful, but she can't defeat Karuta. She suggests that they run, but Urien steps up and, armed with one of his daggers, activates the direct shot technique. He throws the dagger at Karuta at great speed, but to his surprise, Karuta deflects it pretty easily. Suddenly, Karuta feels something hitting him on the shoulder, and before he understands, a big portion of his left shoulder blows off completely. Realizing that Karuta is confused, Urien laughs at him before telling him that the first dagger he threw was a fake. Basically, Karuta was so busy trying to block the first one that he didn't see the one behind it. Urien mentions that Karuta's skin might be tough as steel, but some of his body appears to be vulnerable. Apparently, his technique was able to reveal all the weak spots available on the orc's body, and Urien couldn't resist testing them out. Karuta angrily charges at Urien, but he weaves and leaps backward before throwing another round of explosive daggers at him. Urien mocks Karuta, telling him that he might be pissed, but there is no way he is catching him easily. Suddenly, Karuta notices an innocent civilian behind him and immediately turns his attention toward him. Karuta leaps toward the civilian, and Urien figures out that he has to save the poor dude somehow. He activates the small dragon's treasure, which is a boost skill. He poured all the inner power he could into the skill, and he basically turned into the Flash just to get to the poor dude before Karuta could split him open with his giant sword. Karuta slightly misses the dude and smacks the ground instead, which leaves the ground shattered. Ilya and the other soldiers are shocked at how Urien was able to get to the poor dude before the orc hit him. Urien is pissed at Karuta for what he tried to do, and he decides to finish the fight. Urien unleashes one of the 4 overpowered hidden weapons in the 4 Heaven Tang clan, the Bloodflower Butterfly. He sends the butterflies toward Karuta, and they all look harmless even to Ilya and the soldiers. Before Karuta knows it, he is already overwhelmed by the butterflies, and suddenly, the butterflies explode on his body. Karuta screams in pain, while Ilya watches in shock and horror. When the smoke clears, there is a huge hole right in the middle of Karuta's chest, and it crashes to the ground. The soldiers cheer in happiness that they have won, but Ilya calls their attention to the little fries still hanging around. Without wasting time, Ilya and her soldiers dash toward the orcs to finish them off. With this, Urien is able to successfully win in his first battle. Urien rushes over to Ilya to ask her if she is fine. Ilya replies that she is not hurt and admits that she owes her life to Urien. However, Urien tries to be modest, telling Ilya that it is only natural that they help each other. Urien then decides to talk to her about what she asked him earlier. He confesses that he doesn't use a sword because his area of expertise is hidden weapons. Ilya is shocked to hear this, and she asks again if he means hidden weapons like daggers, and he says yes. In addition, the exploding sphere and the butterfly are all hidden weapons. Ilya is ultimately blown away because she never knew that hidden weapons were strong. Urien understands that it is quite hard for her to accept, since she has spent her whole life believing that the sword is the greatest weapon out there. However, Urien hopes that his demonstration of the hidden weapon changes her perspective on things. One of the soldiers walks over to her, telling her that he has prepared a magic pouch for them to use. Since they can't retrieve all the corpses at once, Ilya suggests that they at least take the orc warrior's head. She cuts off Karuta's head and puts it inside the magic pouch for safekeeping. Since it is starting to get really late, Ilya suggests that they head back home. Just as they are about to leave, Musk and one other soldier show up. Ilya is shocked, and she asks him where he has been because the signal flare went up a long time ago. Musk explains that they went too far out, and before they knew it, they got ambushed by orcs. They claim that they got delayed while they were fighting their way out. Ilya believes their story, but is surprised that they are the only ones returning. Musk mentions that the other soldiers were wiped out by the orcs because they were much stronger than expected. Ilya demands that Musk take her to where the bodies are. Musk is hesitant, and he tells Ilya that it is already too late, suggesting that they check it out the following day. Ilya insists that she would like to see the bodies at that instant, and Musk rides close to her while mumbling some rubbish. The moment he gets close enough, he whips out his blade with the intention of stabbing her. However, before his hand can reach Ilya, his arm flies off. He falls off his horse, writhing in pain, and Urine tells him that he already knew that he was a freaking liar. Basically, he claimed that he fought orcs, but there is no drop of green orc blood on his body. Urine already figured out that he was in bed with the orcs, and Urine knows this, since it is his story. Ilya angrily gets off her horse and unsheathes her sword. Musk screams as Ilya walks toward him because he knows what is coming. He tries to sweet-talk his way out of the situation, but Ilya doesn't care as she cuts him down. Ilya then orders her men to seize Musk's counterpart. The dude tries to defend himself, saying he was only following orders, but no one cares. The following morning, Urine wakes up to Giranox screaming out his name like he owes him money. Giranox tells him that he has been sleeping like a log, and it's almost lunchtime already. In addition, Ilya is there to see him, and just then, Ilya enters the room, looking all beautiful and stunning. Urine almost suffers a brain freeze because of the immensely beautiful woman standing in front of him. Urine is still trying to fathom the beauty in front of him when Ilya tells him that they need to go to her house. Apparently, her father told her to bring him. Without hesitation, Urine tells the lady that he is going to follow her. In the original novel, it was the protagonist who saved Ilya and ended up meeting her father, Raymond Marcus. Ilya then steps out of the room, telling Urine to get ready to meet her outside. Urine checks the status window and realizes that Ilya's affection has gone up to 45% just because he helped her once. Moments later, Urine steps out of the room to meet Ilya, who is waiting for him. Meanwhile, the civilians outside are busy hailing Ilya as the Iron-Blooded Knight. This is a noble title that is given to her because she never backed down when she faced the Orc Warrior. Surprisingly, they have a title for Urine too, and this is the Steel Magician. Urine is shocked that they are calling him the Steel Magician. But it soon dawns on him that the nickname spread from the testimonies of the surviving soldiers. This was probably because they saw him manipulate steel spheres, and they automatically believed that he was a magician who controlled steel. Just then, Ilya calls Urine's name and thanks him once again for saving her life, but Urine nervously tells her that she has nothing to worry about. Ilya mentions that she went to the forest earlier that morning in an attempt to recover the bodies. She confesses that the scene was horrific and the mutilated bodies of the soldiers were scattered everywhere. This was when it dawned on her that she would have been one of the dead if Urine were not there. Ilya then assures Urine that she is going to train harder so she can become even stronger. Urine is not surprised by this because he knows that Ilya is just about to get even stronger. They step into the courtyard, and Ilya tells him that the Marcus estate is not far from where they currently are. Apparently, her father has summoned the family mages to bring them to the estate. The mages then create a warp gate for them to use. In an instant, Giranox, Ilya, and Urine find themselves at the Marcus estate, which is a beautiful setting. Giranox is ultimately blown away, forcing him to ask Urine if all nobles have such beautiful and majestic homes. Urine, on the other hand, doesn't really care about all of these because he is already thinking of the delicious food that they are going to offer to him. He remembers that the original protagonist was offered Chirin's soup when he met the Marquis, but he believes that his case will be different. Momentarily, Urine joins Ilya and Raymond in the meeting hall. Urine bows his head in greeting, but the man urges him that he doesn't need to be all that formal. He offers him a seat and then thanks him for saving his daughter. As usual, Urine remains modest, saying it was his pleasure to have done so. Not long after this, the meal is served, and Urine excitedly opens the plate. To his ultimate surprise and disappointment, he is served the family's special Chirin soup. Raymond tells him that it is similar to the Rox family's soup, but claims that theirs is richer because it contains a secret recipe. Raymond tells Urine that it is tradition for them to eat the soup after a battle, which is something that his own family practices too. Urine thanks the man for the meal, even though he is secretly regretting all of his life decisions. Urine is munching on the food when Raymond suddenly asks him when he is planning to marry Ilya. The food almost drops from his mouth when he hears this, leaving him to question whether the man is testing him. He checks out the man's stat and realizes that his affection level is on the decline. This basically tells Urine that the dude hated his guts so much before, but it got slightly better because he saved his daughter. Urine thought of the best answer he could provide, and he told the man that he would be willing to marry Ilya immediately if he got the chance. Ilya almost faints from the excessive blushing and her entire face turns red. Urine then continues by saying he would not be able to do this because he is not the heir to his family yet. In addition to this, he believes that his reckless past has made things really difficult for him. Urine then tells the man that he wants to change the way people see him first, and the moment he becomes the heir, he will take Ilya as his wife. Raymond asks Urine if he thinks he has a chance because his siblings are said to be geniuses. Urine subtly replies that he believes he can pull it off, and this makes Raymond laugh really hard. while admitting that Urine has truly changed. Because of this, he assures Urine that he is going to support him. Just then, Raymond tells Urine that his father already knows of his presence in the region because someone must have told him via communication magic. Fear grips Urine as he asks Raymond what his father said. Raymond replies that his father urged him to contact him later using communication magic, and Raymond assures him that someone will show him to the communication chamber after his meal. Urine thanks the old man for the hospitality, and he figures out that he was able to leave a good impression. Not long after this, Urine makes his way to the communication chamber to connect with his father. The first image of his father that he sees already tells him that he is in so much trouble. After screaming at him, his father then asks him if he is hurt, but he assures his dad that he is not. His father then asks him if he truly saved Ilya from orcs. Urine replies that it was basically luck, but the old man doesn't believe this. He lets Urine know that he will tell him the whole story when he returns home. He demands to know when he is coming back, and Urine says he will be back the day after tomorrow. Just then, the man tells him to bring his brothers with him when he comes home, and this shocks him to his bones. After the call, Urine meets with Raymond to tell him that he won't be able to stay long because his father has entrusted him with a task. Raymond is disappointed, but he assures Urine that he is going to provide him with warp magic. However, Urine declines the offer even though it is a pretty sweet deal. Urine mentions that he is in a state of training and he doesn't need to rely on warp to move around. This blows Raymond's mind, and he concludes that Urine has truly become a different person. He then tells Urine that he would like to see just how much stronger he can get. Urine notices that Ilya is smiling, which means that she approves of his latest answer. Unknown to Ilya and her father, Urine has another reason as to why he doesn't want to use the warp magic. As they leave the castle, Giranox notices that they are going in the opposite direction of where they are supposed to be going, and Urine mentions that there is somewhere he needs to stop first. He points to the big mountain in the distance, which serves as the home for a dragon. Giranox claims that he is familiar with the lair because he went there before he opened his forge. Giranox then asks him if he is going there to make a wish, but Urine says no, revealing that he is going there to claim a treasure. Apparently, there is a treasure there that only he knows about, but the protagonist was supposed to find it later. The cave is named Dragon's Lair because it was said to be home to dragons in ancient times. On their way to the lair, Urine notices that there are several people going there already to pray, even though it is still morning. As they approach the mountain, Urine tells Giranox that they are heading around the mountain, and when they reach the back, Giranox sees nothing, leaving him to doubt Urine's sanity. However, Urine has already spotted the entrance handle that he set up. The entrance handle is like that of a car door handle, and Urine makes sure that no one is around before making his move. Just like opening a car, he pulls the rock, and it creates an opening. Giranox is totally blown away when he sees this, and before he totally loses himself, Urine suggests that they enter. Upon entering, Giranox is left stunned at how gracious the inside of the cave looks. Just then, he spots a gemstone, but before he can eagerly grab it, Urine stops him, telling him that he is only going to trigger a trap by touching it. Giranox is curious about what type of trap will be activated, and Urine says the entire area will turn into a sea of fire, which will ultimately roast them alive. Urine mentions that there are plenty of other traps in the cave, so he suggests that he stay close to him. Not long after this, they arrive at a peculiar room, but it looks empty to Giranox, aside from an altar sitting there. Urine then explains to Giranox that the fake dragon lair ends right where they are standing. Basically, there are people standing on the other side praying to the duo. Urine then suggests that they take a look at the treasure, but Giranox is confused by what he means. Giranox is still confused by all of these, and Urine urges him to pull the handle beneath the altar. Giranox does this, and the altar lid falls off, revealing the gold coins sitting inside. While Giranox is concentrating on the gold coins, Urine is more interested in something else. Urine picks up a black box, which is known as Warrior's Jade, and it has a rebirth effect. Urine considers it a very important item for him to get stronger with. Urine then tells Giranox to pack the gold coins into the magic pouch, and after they are done, they step back into the open. Giranox asks Urine where they are heading, and Urine says they are going to the magic tower in Asa so that they can warp from there. Suddenly, Urine notices a strange woman standing in front of them, and from the stranger emerges a dreadful and chilling pressure. Urine uses his Eye of the Creator to scan the woman, and the moment he knows who she is, fear cripples Urine because she is not supposed to appear until later in the novel. As they walk past the woman, Giranox notices the strangeness in Urine's behavior. Deep down, Urine is freaking out because he knows he has no chance against the woman in his current stage. Without thinking twice, he figures out that he needs to escape the area as fast as he can. Urine urges Giranox to come with him as they need to leave the area quickly. Later on, Urine sits alone in his inn room thinking about what he encountered earlier. Since it is supposed to appear later, it dawns on him that the woman might have been on her way to recover the treasure too. Urine realizes that there is something about the story that has changed. Without wasting any more seconds, Urine grabs the item and consumes it. His body starts to react to it, making it seem like his body is on fire. He immediately starts meditating so he can circulate his chi. Once he is done circulating the chi, he gets the notification that he has become a heavenly martial body. Urine is glad to hear this, since a heavenly martial body often appears as the ultimate physical constitution when talking about martial arts novels. It can basically replicate any movement, whether it is a sword or a fist. Urine can already see the difference because his body is as light as a feather. Just then, Giranox enters the room with the intention of asking him about food, but he suddenly realizes that he has grown much taller. Urine nervously replies that Giranox is seeing things, but Giranox says he is not because he is a blacksmith and can measure with his eyes alone. He lets Urine know that he was 178 centimeters tall before, but he has suddenly increased to 182 centimeters. Urine is totally blown away by Giranox's deduction because he is in no way wrong. Later that day, the two head to the magic tower with the aim of using the warp. The mage asks them where they are headed to, and Urine replies that they are going to the capital, leaving Giranox shocked. The mage is also shocked, and he reveals that travel to the capital is currently restricted thanks to the potential threats to the royal family. However, this is only meant for ordinary citizens without special status. Realizing that he has no choice, Urine is forced to reveal his true identity and also tell the two that Giranox is his personal blacksmith. The moment he mentions his name, the atmosphere changes, and the mages start calling him the Steel Magician. They start asking him if it's true that he can endlessly hurl iron balls at his targets, and several other questions like the formula for the weapon. Suddenly, the head of the Tower Council shows up in the room and smashes his staff on the ground to get everyone's attention. He apologizes for his disciple's rudeness and introduces himself as Zubion. Urine remembers Zubion because he was the Archmage, and he was only added to the story for the fun of it. On the outside, he is nothing more than a kind grandfather, but deep down, he is a serial Terminator. Urine is totally blown away by how he is running to scary figures one after the other. Zubion then tells Urine that he will be the one to warp him to the capital. Before sending Urine off, he tells Urine that he has the feeling they are going to meet again. Zubion then activates the chamber, and Urine and Giranox find themselves in the capital in an instant. Giranox is stunned by just how impressive the capital is because everyone looks expensive. Momentarily, they arrive at the Royal Knight Academy. The guard asks Urine what he wants, and he tells the dude that he is there to request a visitation. The guard demands to know who he has come to see, and Urine introduces himself, saying he is there to see his younger brother, Colin Rox. The moment he mentioned his name, a silver-haired, handsome dude pops out in the corner asking him if he is the same dude who defeated the orc. Urine cannot believe that word has already spread to the capital about his feats and achievements. The dude automatically concludes that Urine is a strong person. Urine wonders why the dude is speaking to him so casually, and he finally introduces himself as Carrick Elion, who is the second son of the Duke of Elion. Apparently, he is Colin's friend, and he promises to take Urine to Colin. Even though he looks really shady, Urine doesn't mind following him. He tells Giranox to stay behind while he checks out what Carrick has for him. As they proceed, Carrick mentions how surprised he is about Urine's feat because no one really knows about him. Carrick asks Urine if he is a magic user, but Urine replies that he is not. Upon hearing this, Carrick smiles, but they continue with their walk. Moments later, they arrive at the training grounds and he asks the other students there if they have seen Colin. The students are surprised since he was the one who took him to the professor not long ago. Urine is surprised by this, but before he can say anything, Carrick introduces him to the rest of the students, telling them that Urine was the one who helped take down the orc. He continues by saying Urine is not a mage, but a regular warrior just like them. Carrick catches Urine off guard and demands that he show them some of his skills. Urine finally realizes what his plan was, and since he has caught him off guard, he figures out that he doesn't have much of a choice. Carrick pits him against a dude, Melray, who he claims is average among them. Urine takes a wooden sword in preparation for the battle, but Carrick is surprised, since Urine is said to use daggers. Urine assures him that there is nothing to worry about because they are not engaging in a real fight. Carrick is blown away by this, since he heard that Urine can't wield a sword. He urges Urine to do his best against the dude, and Urine is hoping to do that so he can change their rotten noble mentality. He plans on using the heavenly martial body to see how well it works. Once the battle begins, Melray tells Urine that he is free to make the first move. Urine accepts the offer, and he raises his sword at him. He casually hits him, but Melray fails to block it, and he ends up being hit so hard that he crashes to the floor. This shocks everyone in the room, and Carrick believes that Melray let his guard down. Carrick apologizes for the delay and suggests that they go one more round. He calls on another dude, Mula, who is stronger than most. Mula's friends tell him not to underestimate Urine because he saw what he just did to Melray. Mula smiles, saying he is obviously better than Melray. The battle begins, and Mula makes the first move, dashing toward Urine at high speed. However, all Urine sees is a slow dude coming toward him, and he attributes this to the power of the heavenly martial body. Because of how easy things look, Urine casually swings his sword again. Just like before, the result remains the same, and he knocks Mula out. His friends are utterly blown away yet again. Urine realizes that the heavenly martial body has increased his strength, speed, and even reflexes far beyond an ordinary person. Urine makes fun of them, asking if all the Knight Academy produces are a bunch of trash weaklings. Carrick is enraged, but he manages to control himself to demand one more match. This time around, he tells Urine that he is going to be his opponent, since he is the strongest in the group. Urine doesn't hesitate before accepting his challenge, and once the battle begins, Carrick activates his technique, which makes him super fast. Even Urine admits that he is fast, because it makes it look like he is fighting many opponents at once. However, even with how fast he is, the heightened senses that the heavenly martial body produces make it easy for him to dodge Carrick's attack. With Carrick missing his mark, it leaves him quite open, and Urine easily smacks him on the head with the wooden sword to also knock him down. The students are stunned when they see this because there is no way Carrick just lost to Urine. Just then, a blonde-haired dude enters the room, expressing his shock at what he just watched. Urine is confused as to who he is, but little does he know that he is none other than his younger brother, Colin Rocks, who is a sword genius. The students also tell Colin that Urine is in the room, but he is totally confused by this because he can't see his brother, who is obviously standing right in front of him. He doesn't want to believe that the pumped dude standing in his presence is Urine. He remembers his brother being fat, not the fit, pumped dude that he is staring at. Colin starts demanding to know what happened, and Urine simply tells him that all he did was lose some weight. Colin then mentions that the only thing he lost isn't weight because he even looks taller. Urine casually mentions that losing weight made him grow taller too. Colin is surprised to see students lying flat on the ground, and he demands to know what happened. His colleagues then quietly narrate the whole scene to him, making him even more shocked than before. This is when he realizes that the rumor about Urine defeating an orc warrior is true. Urine assures him that the rumors are 100% true. Colin refuses to believe this, saying there is no way Urine got that strong. Urine asks Colin if he is really trying to cause a scene, but Colin replies that he never once considered Urine his brother. Colin mentions that he has nothing going on for him except for the fact that he was born 2 years earlier. Because of how rude he is, Urine tells him that he is going to show him why he is the older one. Urine tells Colin to have a go at him, and Colin gladly accepts the invitation. However, Urine suggests that they make a bet, and this is the fact that the loser will grant the winner one wish. Colin accepts this, threatening to make Urine crawl under him once he wins. Just as the fight is about to begin, his friends whisper in his ear, and Urine believes that they are telling him how he managed to knock out the other students. Once the fight begins, Colin goes all out from the start and unleashes everything within him. Urine checks out the stat window and realizes that his brother really hates his guts. In addition, he looks pretty strong because he is the Sword Emperor who was born with an innate gift for the sword. Urine figures out that he is confident, since he hasn't lost to anyone in his age range before. However, no matter how fast Colin seems to be, Urine doesn't see himself losing to him. Colin dashes toward him, but he easily dodges and strikes Colin on the knee. Urine has concluded that he is not finishing the fight in one blow, just like he did before. Urine follows through with a strike to the hand, as he is looking to beat him down pretty much slowly. 10 minutes later, Urine is still in the business of teaching Colin, who is the boss. Urine has ravaged Colin's body with the wooden sword, leaving all those who are watching totally horrified. Colin soon fell to the ground in tears, begging Urine to stop because he could no longer take the beating. Urine scares him one more time by raising his sword at him, reminding him that the next time he disrespects him, he is going to suffer more consequences than the ones he just suffered. Without hesitation, Colin agrees to this with tears in his eyes. Urine then finally tells Colin his wish, and this is the fact that he wants him to start calling him Great Brother anytime he is around him. Colin is shocked to hear this, and the moment Urine suspects that he is shocked, he raises his sword at him again, but he quickly adheres to the instruction. After the battle, Urine tells Colin that they are going on a journey to the Empire, where their third brother, Laon, is. Momentarily, they arrive at the Imperial capital, and Geronoc's mind is blown away every time they use the magic tower. Urine then mentions that there is a magic tower in every nation, and they are all neutral grounds. Moments later, they arrive at what seems to be the Imperial Knight Academy, which is a really impressive building. Urine then nervously tells Colin to enter the academy to bring Laon out. Colin has no choice but to agree, and even has to call Urine a great brother before proceeding with the mission. Not long after this, Colin returns with their brother Laon. Urine is blown away at how tall Laon is, but Laon is more surprised by how impressive Urine is. Urine then tells Colin that he has done a good job, and just as expected, Colin refers to Urine as his great brother. Laon walks up to Urine, saying he has heard a bit of his story from Colin, and Urine says he is relieved but tells him that it is time they head back home. Suddenly, Laon mentions that there is a problem, and this is the fact that the imperial capital is currently under lockdown. Apparently one can enter, but they can't leave because earlier that morning, the imperial crown prince was sent to the afterlife by assassins. This leaves Urine ultimately shocked and trapped at the same time because he knows what's coming. Urine tries to rack his brain, but doesn't remember any part where the prince died. Laon explains that the crown prince was assassinated at dawn, and it dawns on Urine why there were soldiers everywhere when he was coming to the academy. Urine wonders about the possibility of this, and who could have even done it in the first place. Laon narrates that he heard rumors about the crown prince's fiancée, a princess from another kingdom. It turned out that the prince invited her to his training session to show her how proficient he is. After he is done showcasing his talent to the princess, he walks toward her, but suddenly a stone spike emerges from the ground, impaling the prince, and ultimately sending him to the afterlife. Colin hears this and mentions that this is an act of sorcery. Apparently, it is forbidden to even use magic in the royal palace, and Laon says that knowing how this happened is why the tower masters from the mage's tower were all summoned to the palace. It is nothing but chaos in the capital, and Urine just found himself in it. Colin is extremely shocked that the crown prince died right in his palace, and to make it worse, it was in front of his fiancée. When Urine learned that it was a spike of stone, he quickly figured out who did it. Basically, the group behind it will soon rampage across the continent, using the prince's assassination as a stepping stone. However, Urine wonders why this is happening so early because it is supposed to happen midway through the story. He starts wondering if the plot has been twisted and brought forward, but this leaves him scared because he and the protagonist still need more time to actually tap into their potential. Nonetheless, he believes that obtaining the heavenly martial body is going to come in clutch. Urine then asks his brothers where they can get the best inn in the capital. Laon mentions Dragon's Tear and Giant's Faith, and Urine goes for Dragon's Tear. Urine tells subordinates to wait for him at the inn, while he tries to find a way to get them out of the capital. Laon asks Urine where he is headed, and he reveals that he is leaving to catch up with an old friend. His brothers are shocked to hear this, and they ask when Urine started having friends in the capital. Moments later, Urine arrived at Flamberge, a bar that is only open to noble members. Urine hides somewhere to wear the outfit he had earlier prepared, and once he is done, he summons Agnes. He tells Agnes to help disguise his face, and Agnes is surprised that Urine knows she can do something like that. Urine smiles nervously, saying it was nothing but a hunch. Agnes is left in shock, but before she gets down to drilling him, she asks him who he wants to look like. Urine looks around, and he spots a noble leaving the bar. He tells Agnes to make him look like the noble, and Agnes gets down to business. She transforms into her liquid form and covers Urine's face to transform him into the desired target. The guard is shocked to see the noble Baron Vere back again. Urine, now in Vere's appearance, plays along, saying he had the intention of leaving, but he suddenly got the urge to drink again. The guard believes him and urges him not to overdrink. Urine heads into the bar, and the waiter also expresses his shock that Vere is back again. Urine tries to act cool by telling the waiter to give him the same drink that he was having before. Once the waiter believes this, Urine figures out that his infiltration is already successful. He then focuses his energy on his super hearing to hear what the people of the bar are talking about. The first few minutes are nothing but rambling and complaints, with nothing useful that he can use. Just then, Urine hears a drunk girl talking about how she killed her lover, and this immediately catches his attention. The waiter comforts the lady, telling her that she is going to find someone better. Urine then tries a telepathic message with the girl. He gets into her head, asking her if she had fun with the crown prince. The girl freaks out when she hears this, and she screams her lungs out. This triggers a massive shockwave that shakes the building to its foundation, and it starts to crumble. The building crashes down, and the girl finally shows her true self, looking all dangerous with an overwhelming power. Urine uses the status window, and this is when he realizes that the girl is one of the 7 sins, envy. To make it worse, she is stronger than Urine even imagined. Fear cripples Urine as he starts to doubt his ability in the face of a more terrifying power. Well guys, that's the end of the video. If you like this video, comment next part in the comment section. Also subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and like the video. Thank you for watching, and see you next time again.